Hello and welcome to another review by Robin the Reviewer. Today I'm looking at the Joso Wi-Fi Smart Touch light switch. This particular version is the 2-gang, nicely boxed, bit of specification on the back telling us that we've got a rated current maximum of 10 amps, which should be plenty for most modern low energy light bulbs, and that's 1800 watts maximum as well, and fortunately it is 10 to 240 volts, so would be usable in most places, certainly in the UK. So we'll have a look inside the box at what we're getting, and first thing that we find is the switch unit itself. So as you can see, we've got a Wi-Fi indicator up here, we've got the two separate switches, one above the other. That's all on this front plate, and then behind we've got the connections for the inbound neutral, the inbound live, and then the feed out for live 1 and live 2, one for each of the two switches. So we'll have a little look at the other items that we get in the box before we move on to some technical details about getting this set up. So here we have the instruction leaflet, and this is fairly good. You've got plenty of diagrams explaining the wiring schematic for the different versions. So we've got the 1-gang, the 2-gang and the 3-gang here. How to separate the front plate from the back plate, because normally on a light switch you would have the two screws, one either side, visible on the front. Obviously it's not, so this front facade has to come off, and then the screw holes are actually on the plastic part behind. I shall show you that in a bit. So here we've also got the information on those screws, basic product information and specification, but most of the information on getting it set up with the app is on the opposite side. So this uses the Smart Life app, which is used for quite a few of the smart products on the market at the moment. We already actually have two bulbs running under the Smart Life app, and from that we know that the Smart Life app will actually also then work with Alexa, so that you can control this. Alexa in the background there thinks I'm talking to her. Obviously got the details here on setting up, registering the app. The app is pretty intuitive, and we've had no problems pairing the lights so far, so there shouldn't be any problem connecting these light switches. And you've got two QR codes at the end for shortcuts to web pages for two different tutorials. So that's the instructions. Also in the box we've got the two screws. You're familiar with these from standard lighting faceplates. So those will hold the main body of the switch into your socket, and then the front plate will be clipped on. Also in the box was this short length of wire. I've yet to find a purpose for it. Perhaps it's showing the correct gauge of wire to be used with the light fitting, but that really should be governed by any overriding building regulations and standards that you're wiring it to. So as I mentioned before, there's no screw holes in the front, so we need to separate that front plate from the main body of the switch so that we can get the switch wired and in, screwed in, and then push the front plate back on. Now you'll see the front plate is retained by 4 little clips. One there, we'll turn this round, one there, and one there. And what we do then have on the base, and I'm saying it's the base because we've got the Wi-Fi signal at the top here and the 2 switches, so if we rotate it straight over, it's not at the top, it's at the bottom. That's in spite of these markings on here. The main part of the switch is actually inverted. So at the bottom here we've got this small recess, and that is to allow us to get a screwdriver in there and literally pry that front panel off. You need to be careful with this, as you don't want to crack it. The wider the screwdriver the better. There we go. So that is the main body of the switch, and the front panel. And you'll be able to see how to match them back up because you've got this part at the bottom here and you've got the same here, and you will also see that you've got these 3 pieces on here and they match up with the 3 pieces there. Obviously if this was the 3-gang version, then there would be another one in here and you would have the extra power symbol here to match up with that. So once we've wired this up, we will then be using the supplied screws in the UK, most likely in these holes either side. So that will secure it to the back box, and then this will be clipped back over the top so you don't see the screws. Put those out for the minute, and putting it back on, best to put the base in. Well, actually that's the top. Get one side in and then just squeeze at the other side, and that's it. Back in again. So just for all those people who will have existing wall boxes and will be fitting these units to them, I have here a standard bulk purchase 35mm wall box, and as you'll see when we place the front panel over the back, if we just switch this round, you can see the screw hole there lining up and the screw hole there lining up, so that we can fit the front plate to 35mm back boxes. And you can see through there, just about there is probably 5 to 10mm clearance, so you're not going to have a lot of room for spare cable in the back of your back box, but they will fit. And as you can see, there's just this overlap that goes all the way around, which is standard with a standard switch faceplate, so no issues there. The only thing that I have had to do on this one is that when it was shipped with a 4th screw lug on the base, which, because of the way it's been designed, is removable, and that did need to be removed in order for this to fit in. There is not a lot of space either up or down or side to side when it fits in, but it will fit, so no need to panic there. Obviously these back boxes are available in a a less deep size, so you're going to have to be careful because you will need most of the 35mm clearance in these boxes, so make sure you're using the deeper box or they're being mounted straight into some other surface. Now in this next part of the video I'm actually going to connect up some power to the switch so that I can show you how it's configured through the app, how it's set up, and give you a quick demonstration of that. Unfortunately I don't have lights, so I'm not going to be able to wire those in, but you should be able to hear the relay that's probably in here, and we'll be switching the power on and off to L1 and L2. But we'll be able to go through the app and how they're all set up and paired. So what I need for this is some neutral and live. Obviously these are not connected at the moment. So you can see on the base here there are these screws. So you will need a small terminal type driver, and you will need to back these off, and you'll be able to see down into the top whether these are closed or open. There you can see that one's closing. If I turn it the other way, it opens. So make sure they're nice and open to accept the cable, and you've got neutral and live. Obviously your colours may differ. And this is to power the light switch. So unlike a standard light switch installation, which is basically a break in the live feed to the bulb, this switch actually needs the neutral and the live fed to it to give it power, otherwise it can't get on the wireless network. So you're going to have to consider this if you are wanting to retrofit existing light switches with these Wi-Fi light switches, and I'll go into that in some more detail with some different diagrams a little later on. So now we have our light switch wired, we can provide power to it, and you could see then the little flash from the blue network indicator at the top. And even without performing any pairing process, we can still operate the two lights from the light switch. So this is a great advantage with this, that rather than Wi-Fi bulbs, which can only really be operated via an app, using a light switch like this, as you can see there, it went on and off, and you can hear the relay. So I've got a visual indication of which lights are on or off, and I can operate them from the light switch as well as wirelessly. So I can come into a room and turn them on manually, and then I can leave the room, and if I've forgotten to turn them off, I can then do it wirelessly, or I can even use an Echo or other Amazon device to send a command to have them turned off while I'm not there, even while I'm anywhere else off the home network. So in order to get these paired, we now need to enter into a pairing mode. So now we're going to pair with the switch using the Smart Life app. You can see we've already got that installed, and once loaded you can see devices we've already got in there. So we now want to add a new device, and it is a wall switch. Now it wants us to confirm that the connection light is rapidly flashing on the device. It's a generic image because there are many different types that could use the same app. So we will need to press and hold as per the instructions, Now we have a rapidly flashing light. We can confirm that. We can confirm our network. And this now seeks for devices. And if we keep an eye on this indicator here, there we go, it's turned that off, so it's found the network. The network light has come back on, so it's now on our home network, and the app should now see that device appear, and that means that the pairing is complete. So as you can see, we now have this extra item in here. We have the wall switch, and we can turn that on and off, and you can hear it in the background. And if I move this to the side, so the lower switch is like the default switch in here, and if we click on the common functions, you can see that we've got switch 1 and switch 2. Inside the app at the moment, it would appear that using them here, you have to turn switch 2 on in order to then turn switch 1 on or off, because once you turn switch 2 off, they are both greyed out. However, if you go into that switch, what you get is this nice image of the two light switches. Unfortunately, instead of being one above the other, because it's generic and doesn't know, they are side by side. So now we have switch 1, switch 2, and it knows either way whether they've been done through the app or done through the device directly. Not only that, but we've got both on, which triggers them both off, and as with some of the other devices, we can also start to set up timers, and they're independent for both switches. So if we're going away on holiday and we want some lights on in the evening looking like we're about, we can set that up through here, and we can also do that through an Echo or other connected service. So, one last thing I forgot to mention about the app is that obviously it comes in with this name from the device. However, within the app we can go to the extra settings and we can modify the name so that it's something meaningful for us, and that makes it a lot easier to remember what you're going to say to an Echo, for instance, or a Dot when you're wanting to turn light switches on or off, or when they're in a big list inside the app. You can also create groups. So if you always want to operate the light switches together, or you want them individually but also want to be able to operate them together or with other light switches, then you can put them in a group together. And if for any reason you need to remove that device, then you can remove it at the bottom, and that means that it will no longer be able to be communicated with via this app, but you can then pair it with another network and add it to a different app. On one last note, I just wanted to highlight the difference between traditional lighting wiring and the wiring required for this smart switch. As you can see, the diagram on the left shows traditional wiring, while the diagram on the right shows the wiring for a smart switch. Now, in the left hand side, the live is passed to the switch and goes through the switch and back out to the light bulb. The neutral doesn't make it to the light switch at all. However, with the smart switch, it requires the neutral to give it power. If it doesn't have live and neutral, it won't turn on. So you need to feed it with both live and neutral, but then there are two live feeds, one that goes to each light bulb. Hopefully this diagram explains and also shows that a standard light switch would have a earth connection on the back of it. This light switch doesn't have an earth connection, so you will have to make separate arrangements for the earth, which is usually connected to the back box. That is the Joso 2-gang Wi-Fi smart switch and how to use it with the Smart Life app. Thank you for watching.